Hello again my friends, Bungie's latest weekly update focuses on weapon tuning. It's a huge update that covers every single weapon type in the game. This video will detail the changes coming to Destiny's exotic weapons. Let's start with Necrochasm, which, let's be honest, is horse shit. One of Destiny's worst exotic weapons, about as deadly as a sleeping kitten. This exotic auto rifle doesn't kill its target. Instead, it buys it a bottle of wine, stares lovingly into its eyes, gently caresses its buttocks before making sweet, sweet love to it. In short, it sucks balls. So then, how is Bungie making this weapon better? Well, the base stability is being increased from 40 to 60. The magazine size is also going to be increased. The Cursebringer perk will now always trigger on a precision kill, and the Cursebringer explosion now has an increased radius and deals more damage. And now I've got to admit, these changes sound pretty good. In fact, according to a Bungie playtester on Reddit, the Necrochasm was stupidly good in the last internal Taken King playtest. Fucking crazy, right? I guess the time has finally come to grab this weapon from the vault, blow the dust off, and start shooting shit. Fucking hurrah! Next up, we have the Last Word, aka the Last Bastard. This exotic hand cannon has the fastest time to kill in the game. In other words, you have no time to react because you're already fucking dead. As a regular Crucible player, I'm delighted to see this thing getting nerfed. Both range and stability are being reduced, range from 20 to 10 and stability from 30 to 20. And the range is also being reduced when you aim down sight, so no more insane cross-map kills with this thing. But the Last Word will now also have increased accuracy and precision damage when firing from the hip, so it's still a formidable weapon at close range. Next up, we have Icebreaker, my absolute favourite exotic PvE weapon, known affectionately at Bungie as Gamebreaker. Now, I was actually nervous about how exactly this weapon would be nerfed. Thankfully, not too much has changed. Instead of waiting 5 seconds for a round to recharge, you now have to wait 8 seconds. That's a total of 3 seconds longer. Yes, this will prove frustrating when you're trying to wipe out one of those bastard bullet sponge bosses as quickly as you can, but hey, I guess that's the price you pay for infinite fucking bullets. Next up, we have Black Hammer. Now, this isn't an exotic weapon, but Bungie felt it deserved a place on this list. So then, Black Hammer's ammo reserve has been increased to 18, but it's come at a terrible price. The White Nail perk will now use up your ammo. Rapidly landing 3 precision shots will still automatically refill the magazine without you having to reload. But now, this perk eats into your ammo reserve. No more magically appearing bullets. And this makes me sad. Very fucking sad. Next up, we have Hard Light. Now, Hard Light's volatile light perk causes bullets to bounce off hard surfaces. Changes to this weapon will mean that your bullets will now bounce around for longer. Now, to be honest, I've always thought that the volatile light perk was pretty pointless. All my kills with this weapon have come from direct shots on target, not from bouncing bullets off walls, so I'm going to reserve my judgment about this particular buff until I've played about with it. Now, what really interests me is the fact that this weapon's bullets will no longer be affected by damage fall-off. So you'll be dealing the same amount of damage to your targets no matter how far away you are from them. Add to this increased stability and you have a very interesting weapon on your hands. Next up, we have Lord of Wolves. Now, this exotic shotgun's unique perk is Devil's Touch. Kills with this weapon grant +3 recovery to nearby allies for 30 seconds. Well, Bungie has now tripled the recovery boost to +9. Again, I'll have to test this out for myself to gauge just how useful this perk will prove. Now, I like the idea of a super fast recovery speed, but I don't like the idea of having to snuggle up to someone's anus in order to take advantage of this perk. Next up, we have No Land Beyond, widely regarded as the worst exotic in the game, and for good reason. It's fucking awful, and so Bungie has made a few changes. Firstly, increase weapon handling speed so you can now aim it, ready it, and stow it quicker. But the most significant change involves this weapon's unique perk, the Master, which increases precision damage and means that kills with this sniper increase damage against the next target. Well, now this perk lasts 8 seconds and adds a 20% precision damage bonus while the perk is active. Now, I have a feeling you could attach a heat-seeking nuclear missile to this thing and it would still be shit. So again, I'm reserving judgment on these changes until I've put it through its paces in the Crucible. Next up, we have Gjallarhorn, the most prized rocket launcher in the game. An absolute beast and no mistake. Quite simply, this thing fucks shit up and it does so exceedingly well. Bullet sponge bosses cower when they see this monster glinting in the sun, and facing off against this thing in PvP results in one inevitable outcome: your funeral. Unsurprisingly then, it's been nerfed. The Gjallarhorn's Wolfpack rounds now do less damage. Personally, I'm kinda sad to see this beast being tamed. I'm gonna miss the sheer devastation Gjallarhorn wreaks upon its targets, but hey, I guess it was only a matter of time before Bungie finally nerfed this thing. Next up, Hawkmoon, one of Destiny's hardest weapons to acquire. It's also one of the best PvP guns in the game, an exotic hand cannon that has a chance to one-shot kill a Guardian with full health. Now this only happens if you're super lucky and both the weapon's bonus damage bullets stack in one round. You can then headshot a Guardian with a single bullet. Well, not anymore. The chance of this happening has now been removed, and the Luck in the Chamber perk, which gives one random bullet considerable bonus damage, has now also been reduced by 3%, but the magazine size has now been increased from 13 to 15 once you unlock the Holding 80s perk. Again, I'm kinda sad that the Hawkmoon is now a little less vicious than it used to be. And finally, Thorn, quite simply the most controversial weapon in the game. Many of you adore it, many more of you utterly despise it, but there's one indisputable fact: Thorn is the most used weapon in PvP, and it's not hard to see why. This thing is a super effective killing machine. Now, after much criticism from the community, the Thorn is to be nerfed. Now, the base changes to hand cannons in general will make Thorn and every other hand cannon in the game less effective at longer ranges, and the Thorn's Mark of the Devourer perk will deal roughly a third less damage when it's eating away your flesh. But in PvE, the Mark of the Devourer perk will now stack up to 5 times, which means if you land 5 shots on a target, each shot will increase the damage effect to this perk, which should prove pretty effective against bullet sponges. So there you have it. Those are the changes coming to Destiny's exotic weapons. How do you feel about them? Which make you happy? Which make you sad? Personally, I'm most looking forward to the buffed Necrochasm, the increased base damage to all auto rifles, and the fact that this thing will now trigger a deadly explosion for every precision shot, not to mention the increased stability in magazine size, could mean that Necrochasm is now a viable exotic. My biggest disappointment is the Icebreaker nerf. I don't think this weapon needs an additional 3 seconds per round to recharge. In fact, this was one of the few weapons that everyone seemed happy with. Now, Bungie has also made weapon tuning changes to every weapon type in the game. For example, all auto rifles will have increased base damage, and all scout rifles will have a 5% increase in damage in PvE. Now, you can see a detailed list of all these changes by clicking the link in the description box below. I'll be making a separate video about this soon, so stay tuned for that. Now, all these changes will be implemented in September, just before the arrival of the Taken King. And that, my friends, brings us to the end of the video. Thumbs up if you enjoyed it, subscribe for daily Destiny content, and thanks for watching, you beautiful bastards. And as always, until next time, Guardians.